Welcome in to the latest episode of Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer Edition. I'm your host, the real_G Warner, and today we'll be going through the English Premier League, La Liga in Spain, Serie A in Italy, the German Bundesliga, and Ligue 1 in France. I will put it all together for an ultimate best bet coming end of show with my favorite bet across the entire European landscape for this Friday, March 1st. Welcome in. It's a beautiful time to be alive. And it's huge for college basketball season. I know this is a soccer podcast, but we will be deep in the college basketball sheets. I think I've won my last 3 ultimate best bets. So trying to keep that going as long as possible. If you are not following yet on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, or on YouTube, please hit subscribe wherever you're watching this podcast. If you're not a member yet at BetOnline or SportsBetting.ag, there are links in the podcast descriptions on the various podcast platforms that will get you a free match of your first time deposit. And it's worth it to get some free money from the casinos. So on this episode, we're going to start where the money is, and that is in English Premier League. If you're not a member of my Patreon yet, check it out. Patreon.com/thereal_G Warner, the best spot to get on my plays, leans, write-ups, and everything you could ever ask for all in one place. Patreon.com/thereal_G Warner. So let's get into this. The first matchup we'll go through is English Premier League. We'll start with Everton hosting West Ham. Everton, a half a goal favorite. All the juice on West Ham on the road. Over-unders 2.5, juiced almost all the way to over. Two teams that aren't playing great. West Ham with a great start in their Monday match against Brentford, taking a 2-0 lead early, but then conceding and then really dodging a penalty. And that was just the first half. Everton on the other side, they are fighting relegation. That 10-point penalty seems like it's going to stick for the rest of the season. They're the favorite here, though. And I got to say, I haven't really seen much from Everton that made me think that they are deserving of being any sort of favorite at any point. West Ham, a very different team with Lucas Paquetá back in the lineup. That's the way I'd lean, and I'd probably lean to under 2.5 in that one as well. We'll move next to Brentford hosting Chelsea. These are Saturday matches on the 2nd of March. We'll start with Brentford, a quarter goal underdog at home. Almost all the juice on Chelsea. On the road, over-under is 3, juiced almost all the way to over. Chelsea coming off a Leeds match midweek in the FA Cup, plus their heartbroken extra time loss to a very young Liverpool side, missing a ton of their best players. But they get to go to Brentford, who have been awful. It's hard to say anything more than Brentford have been terrible. They can't defend. Their goal scoring is maybe okay for a low budgeted side, but ultimately it can't compete with their defense. I don't know necessarily that I would want to be in a position to back Brentford, but I do like the idea of being against Chelsea. And I think the push on 3 is very important. So I like Brentford under 3. We'll move next to Fulham hosting Brighton, another London match. Fulham, a pick'em with a little bit more juice, slightly more at BetOnline. Over-under is 3, juiced all the way to under. And Brighton, they had a midweek match in the FA Cup. They have sort of turned the corner a little bit, gotten a little bit healthier, gotten a lot of their players back from the AFCON and the Asian Cup. So that should help with their talent levels. And really, I think more importantly, their depth. Fulham have been playing a lot better lately. Looks like they've found a striker finally to replace Mitrovic, who had left the season and also really hadn't been scoring goals since midway through last year or whenever he got that 8-game suspension for making a contact with the referee. It feels a little cheap here for Fulham at home at only pick'em, but Brighton have gotten stronger of late. Brighton, a really hard team to play under with, so I'm not really sure I have much in this one, though I do like the push on that 3. Though Fulham have been scoring goals lately, so it's a little bit more difficult for me to want to get involved with an under there, considering Brighton are just going to attack the whole time for 90 minutes. Nottingham Forest then hosts Liverpool. Nottingham Forest, a 1-goal underdog at home after their home match with Manchester United midweek in the FA Cup. Liverpool with all the juice right now. Over-under is 3.25, juice all the way to under. So Liverpool have been playing a ton of important matches somehow with a bunch of youth players. Did win the Carabao Cup, but then had FA Cup midweek and really didn't rotate as much I think a lot of people expected, and certainly as much as the line expected, as we saw some big movement, it felt like, right after lineups came out towards the Liverpool and over direction. Nottingham Forest's defense has been horrible. I feel like they've been scoring more goals than they should have ever since Nuno Espirito Santo took over. I think they're going to be in a shell and be as defensive as possible, even at home here, even in a situation where they're fighting relegation. You might have that 10-point deduction, the same one that Everton has or has received, or however I should put that. I think Liverpool, they're going to feel some title pressure, but I don't know necessarily that this is the team to do it. I think my biggest interest here is just most games, I feel like anything 3 or above, I'm clearly looking under, as anyone who listens to this podcast would know. So I'll put under 3.25 on my list in that one. Tottenham Hotspur then host Crystal Palace. Currently Tottenham a 1-goal favorite with all the juice. Over under is 3, juiced almost all the way to over. Crystal Palace, they've got the new manager, Oliver Glasner, coming over from Eintracht Frankfurt, and they're in, I think, a position to play a lot better defense, but how long does it take for that to set? And where do they find goals? That's the biggest question with Tottenham. They're going to leave everything open. They're going to give up a ton of chances, even to a Crystal Palace side that really don't create many. So that always makes me concerned about Tottenham laying a goal. Also makes me concerned with playing an under 3 here, even though I like that push. I just don't think unders are something I can play with Tottenham at this point, even though I'm sure they're going to hit a few throughout the season. Next, we go to Newcastle hosting Wolves. Currently, Newcastle a 0.5-goal favorite with more of the juice. Over under is 3, just a little bit more to under. Wolves had midweek against Brighton, I believe, in FA Cup. Newcastle also played a lower squad or lower side, lower tier team, and I think the Rovers of whatever team it was. But Newcastle, I mean, their defense has been horrible. Their offense has been, I think, a lot better at home than it's been on the road. I think that's probably easy to say. I think Wolves will go into Newcastle and try to keep this and try to play the tempo they want to. To me, I kind of equal, or I guess I relate them to college basketball teams that just want to slow the game to a snail's pace. In soccer, it's a little different because there's no overtime and things of that nature. And you score 1 goal at a time as opposed to 2s and 3s and transition and such. But transition is very important in this sport, and I just don't think Newcastle get a lot of those opportunities. And I think Wolves are the side I want, and ultimately I think I like under here because I expect them to win the tempo battle. Moving next, and this might be the last matchup on Saturday. Luton Town hosts Aston Villa. Luton Town coming off their match with Manchester City in the FA Cup. Aston Villa, I think, were already eliminated by Chelsea, so they had a midweek off. Luton, a 3/4 goal underdog at home. All the juice in Aston Villa on the road. Over under here is 3.25, just slightly more to over. Luton Town, they were a great under team for, I don't know, the first 2 months of the season. And then either a combination of them being able to score goals or just completely losing track defensively. They're not that team anymore. Aston Villa, to me, have been scoring way more goals than they should have so far this season. Usually away from home, that dries up, but their defense gets worse. I don't know if the high line is unable to travel or something like that, but it doesn't seem to be as effective as it is in Aston Villa or in Birmingham. I think from this perspective, I'll wait to see if Luton get a full goal of insurance. That, to me, seems unlikely, but based on the juice right now, I guess it's pointing in that direction. That'd probably be my biggest interest. I don't know. I mean, I guess I like under 3.25 here as well because I just don't really trust Aston Villa road offense, and this is a gigantic total. But Luton have been scoring a ton and giving up a ton, conceding a ton, so that does concern me for an underplay there. Moving to Sunday, March 3rd, we have Burnley hosting Bournemouth. Currently, Burnley a 0.5-goal underdog at home with slightly more juice. Over under is 2.75, slightly more juice to the over. Burnley look like they're down. They don't look like they have much to this team. Bournemouth, they're a defensive side under Iraola, but mainly against the best teams in Europe or in the domestic league. I guess Iraola has not really taken a team to Europe yet. At Rayo Vallecano, he didn't do that either. But I don't think Burnley at home is a side that I really want to back because I just don't trust them to do any sort of scoring, and I think Bournemouth will score. I think my biggest interest here in this one is potentially betting against the Bournemouth offense or betting on, more importantly, their defense to really keep Burnley quiet in that sort of defensive low block counterattacking type of style. I don't know that they change it too much because they are clearly the better team here in this matchup, and that's certainly not something Iraola has ever been really used to. But there is a pretty big chasm between these two sides. I'll put under 2.75 on my list for that one. Next, we'll go to the Manchester Derby. Manchester City hosts Manchester United. Gigantic spread here. Manchester City, 1.75 goal favorite with more of the juice, almost all of it. Over under is 3.5. Juice pretty heavily to under. Now, Manchester United, I think we've seen them go into the bigger clubs, which is hilarious to say because Manchester United probably are the biggest club or most popular in the world. But we've seen Eric Ten Hag be very defensive, and I expect that to happen again here. 1 3/4 seems gigantic for the side, but ultimately a 2-0 loss will lose you half a bet on Manchester United right now, and a 3-0 loss will lose you all of it, whereas a 3-0 loss will win you your under. So I'll put Manchester United under 3.5 on that list. I just don't feel like Manchester City their offense has been that spectacular. Played under against Manchester City last weekend, and that was not a really big sweat. And hopefully we'll have another one of those, considering how badly defenses have played last weekend. It's amazing that was one of the few winners. Sheffield United then hosts Arsenal on Monday. Sheffield, a 2-goal underdog at home. All the juice on Arsenal. On the road, over under is 3.25. Juice all the way to over. This is a big question. Has Sheffield United just given up, and are they starting to focus on the future? Doesn't really seem like it, but when their players are basically getting, I think they were reviewing a red card for like teammate on teammate combat in the last matchup. It's certainly not a good way to say that things are going well. I don't really know what to do with this one. Sheffield United feel like they're in the penalty box, like a no-touch team at this point. Feels like a gigantic spread for Arsenal, 2-goal favorites on the road, but I think it's actually lower than what I made it. So I'm not sure that there's a lot for me to look for the ultimate best bet portion of the show in that one. So we might even have a light Monday if we're talking about the English Premier League. So before I move to Spain, for my best bet in England, that's what league we were just covering. I'm gonna go with, man, this is hard. I'm gonna go with that Nottingham Forest under 3.25 goals. Short week, quick turnaround. I just don't really believe in them scoring much. So we'll move on to the next one. We'll go to Spain. And if you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G Warner. I already mentioned that, so I probably should use a different ad. But anyway, there we go. That's that one. You get all my leans, everything overnight. I put in what I'm doing the next day, add write-ups the day of, and then throw in when I lock something in. If you download the application, you get a notification if you turn them on as soon as I lock something in, so you make sure you get the same exact price or the best price possible, because that's one of the areas I feel like I pride myself in. So make sure you go jump on that. Patreon.com/real_G Warner. So in Spain, Celta de Vigo, they host Almeria. Almeria, I think they'll have set records now in La Liga for the longest season without a victory. Sporting Gijon is now celebrating, and all these others as well. Celta, a 0.5 favorite at home with more juice. Over under is 2.5. Juice slightly more to under. I lean under here. I don't think Almeria have really shown that they can score much. While their defense has improved significantly, they're a long way adrift at sea, whatever the terminology would be. Celta have not looked great. They had a really bad late concession of an equalizer after taking a 2-0 lead at Cadiz last weekend. I think they're going to be very focused on defense. They're always focused on defense that are Rafa Benitez, but I think more so, and I think keeping a clean sheet will be of paramount importance. I expect Celta will probably win this matchup. Only 0.5 favorite feels like a little bit cheap for them, but Almeria have been playing well, and I think relatively well. I think under 2.5 is my biggest interest there on that Friday match in La Liga in Spain. Moving to Saturday, March 2nd, we have Sevilla. I pick them right now, the Real Sociedad. Sevilla with all the juice at home. Over under is 2. Juice very heavily to under. Real Sociedad had Copa del Rey midweek, plus all their Champions League, plus really not being able to score for a long time now. I do feel like Sociedad being an underdog is of interest to me, but we don't have that 1/4 goal yet. It probably is available at other sites. But BetOnline is only dealing one number at this moment, and I think he usually does that for I think for Champions League and for Premier League, if you're looking to potentially take advantage of one of those bonuses in the podcast description. BetOnline is pretty good with giving great juice, of course, and openers, but for the most part, I think they're really only dealing one number across the minor of the more major top leagues, as they call it, Premier League and Champions League, all that sort of stuff. Should have multiple choices on what you want to play, but don't have that yet in Spain, and that's the numbers I'm using for this episode. So I'll skip the side. I think under 2 is my biggest interest here, though. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of safe. I mean, there's safety on the as a push on 2. If it goes lower than that, I think I'm not interested. But for now, I'll put under 2 on my list. It feels very low scoring, but that's a reflection of Sociedad and probably rotating after giving their all for the Copa del Rey midweek. Rayo Vallecano then hosts Cadiz. Currently, Rayo a half a goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over under is 2 again. Juice more to under. But not as heavily as that Sociedad match. Rayo just haven't looked good for a very long time. I don't know where goals come from. Their striker, Raul de Tomas, has really done nothing for years now. Cadiz on the other side, like a miraculous draw in their last matchup, but they are in big relegation trouble. They've already sacked their manager as of Rayo. Neither of these teams are playing well. I think my biggest interest, I have some interest in Cadiz actually getting a half of a goal. It was the 3/4 earlier this week and might get back there considering we got plus 102 bet online's dealing right now, and Cadiz getting that half of a goal. I see no interest in jumping in there yet. I'd wait to see how high this Cadiz number gets. I just would love to be against Rayo Vallecano. So I do like that under or that underdog getting a half of a goal, but also under 2. Moving next to Getafe hosting Las Palmas. Getafe coming off an incredibly high and ridiculous high line they played against Barcelona. And I wonder if that is just because they're not really in relegation fights and they're trying to try new things. I don't know why you do that on the road at Olympic Stadium in Barca, but it happened and they didn't get out of it at halftime, and it was really inexplicable. If it's back, I'm very interested in Las Palmas. If it's not back and they're back to playing really defensively in a low block, I'm still into Las Palmas. Las Palmas to me are one of the best sides in La Liga. They're great at possessing the ball. They have very low expectations. So I've been betting them hand over foot this entire season. Mono over PA, I guess is another way to say it. I probably should know what over would be. Mano arriba, PA. Anyway, Las Palmas getting half of a goal. It's very juicy at the moment. I'll play it at a quarter as well. Very interested there, even on the road. And I finally feel like Las Palmas have been a favorite for a bunch of weeks now, and that's been really tough on my bankroll. But I'm looking forward to them being back to an underdog because I think they can go into Getafe and win. I don't think that'll be very hard. Over under here again is 2. I expect a low scoring match. Las Palmas to dominate possession, and Getafe are just really struggling to create much offense. They've scored a ton this season, and I don't think any of that really has been a likely thing, or I guess you could argue it's been deserved. Borja Mayoral has been super hot, but he's cooled off lately. And after that performance last weekend, I think I'm rushing to bet against Getafe. Valencia then hosts Real Madrid. Currently, Valencia, a 3/4 goal underdog. Speaking of teams who have cooled off, over under here is 2.5 and is used very heavily to under. Some low totals coming out of Real Madrid, we'll put it that way. Gigantic favorites last weekend at home to Sevilla. Now, sizable favorites on the road to Valencia, but certainly not the same type of level. And I think Valencia, they have so much talent and young talent, but I'm wondering if they're going through one of those kind of like spurts of the season where the young players are really struggling, or either they're gassed, maybe out of gas because they've been relied on heavily this season. But I mean, Jose Luis Gaya, their captain, has come back and he just looks so angry all the time. I think Valencia and that side is generally the one I'd want, but I don't know that I really want to play against Real Madrid with a team of young talent that is having a rough time of it right now, especially against the Real Madrid side, who doesn't really matter who plays for them. They've got so much talent and so much depth. Over under here, 2.5. I feel like I lean under, if anything. That's probably my biggest lean in this one until we get that +1 on Valencia, which we might get. We'll see, because most of the time, the rule in soccer is the big teams get bet. Moving to Sunday, Villarreal hosts Granada. Currently, Villarreal, a 1-goal favorite coming off a huge upset on the road at Real Sociedad on Friday of last week. Granada got their match called off because I think Valencia had a big apartment complex fire. Sad for that. Descansa en paz. But at this point, I think Granada will probably benefit from a week off, and over under here at 3 is gigantic. It's very juiced to the under right now. It's not a number I want to lose. I don't trust Villarreal to score whatsoever. I do have some concerns about the Villarreal defense, but Granada they sold their best playmaker and in Brian Zaragoza to Bayern Munchen early, just because I think Granada realized that they could cash out and they're going down. I don't love that idea, but it happened, and I'm really actually interested in that +1 as well. So they're very juiced at the moment, but like under 3 and the +1 on Sunday morning in that early match. Atletico Madrid then hosts Real Betis, coming off their Copa del Rey on Thursday. So this is a very quick turnaround to an early match on Sunday. Atleti, a 1-goal favorite, more juice on Betis on the road. Over unders 2 3/4, just more to under. Real Betis with a great performance, getting a win against Atletico, or excuse me, against Athletic Club. Now they get Atletico, two teams that are basically built off the same colors, all that sort of stuff. So forgive me for mixing those names up. And it's also another language, I guess, but one that I consider myself able to speak. Regardless, puedo hablar. Betis, I mean, I don't want to jump back into this pool, considering I have been betting against them and betting their unders for a very long time. But I do expect them to return to an under type of style. Plus, they've been doing a ton of changes. They brought in a new player, a bunch of new players. I still really like their goalkeeper. And Atleti are going to be running on fumes here. It feels like as they have been for a while. Griezmann didn't start in the Copa del Rey. I just don't know what his status will be. And Atleti's their offense, you could argue they're impaired without him. So 1 goal is gigantic and doesn't look like we're really at risk of losing the +1 on Real Betis right now. Also like under 2 3/4 in that one as well. Mallorca then hosts Girona. Currently Mallorca, a 1/4 goal underdog coming off their Copa del Rey semifinal second leg on the road at Real Sociedad on Tuesday, though. So they're in a much better rest situation than Atletico Madrid. Girona, they've been really kind of off the pace. They had a great, incredible run. Now they're fighting to hang on, likely for a Champions League spot. We'll see if they can do that. 1/4 goal underdogs, Mallorca at home with a little bit more juice. Over under here is 2 1/4, juice slightly more to over. Girona, they haven't looked like the same team for a while. They go on the road, and they're probably going to take advantage of a tired Mallorca side relatively, and Mallorca certainly do rotate. But La Liga is essential for Mallorca to stay in the league. They put in a ton of money into their stadium, and they need it bad. They don't want that estadio to be in La Segunda División or the second division. So I think Mallorca at this point, they've been so good at home over the years. It's not a great rest situation for them. And I think the total is going to be in danger because Girona want to play offense the whole time. But I'm looking to be against them. And I think at home, Mallorca are a much different beast. Demonios even. Athletic Club Bilbao then hosts Barcelona with Nico Williams suspended. Big loss for them, but he's been kind of up and down lately. Athletic Club have moved to an underdog. They're now a 1/4 goal underdog at home with all the juice to Barcelona. Over under is 2 3/4, juice slightly more to under. Athletic Club, they're going to play the counterattacking style. They've been much better this season, and I'm not a buyer in Barcelona's recent uptick in form, so I'm very interested in that 1/4 goal. It's slight, but also seeing this was pick 'em earlier in the week does give me some hope that there's a lot of belief in Athletic Club, even if some of the money has been pushed onto Barcelona, especially after Athletic Club had to play Copa del Rey. And I have some interest in under 2 3/4 here as well, but I think at this point I'm just not playing Barca under because I just don't trust their defense, which makes it easy for me to want to look the other way to bet against them. Osasuna then hosts Alaves on Monday. Osasuna a 1/4 goal favorite. All the juice on Alaves on the road. Over under is 2, juiced more to under than to over. Alaves have been great this year, newly promoted side that have looked like a team that will probably remain in the top division, the Primera División, but they've also struggled lately. They had a good run, and then really after the Christmas break, a lot of things have changed. Form has changed. Form has gone out the window. I guess that's what happened. You take a couple weeks off. But Osasuna, they're a good home team, but they really struggle to score goals. I don't really trust their offense much. I think my biggest interest here is Alaves on the road. It's a Basque derby, two teams up north, so it shouldn't be too long of a trip for them. And I also lean to under 2 as well. I just feel like there's a very good chance this is a low-scoring matchup, and I like to bet against the Osasuna offense. For my best bet from Spain in La Liga, I'm going to go with Athletic Club Bilbao, getting that 1/4 goal at home to Barcelona at time of recording. Not sure where this number will go, but I would imagine Barca, like the big teams, get bet part, plus Bilbao coming off a quick turnaround. But I think San Mamés at home will do a lot to improve their fortunes. Moving now to Italy in Serie A. And before we get there, I just want to give you a podcast programming update. We didn't get to the pregame.com college basketball podcast with AJ Hoffman last night, but we're recording that today. I'm just going to be podcasting up the storm. Still have the Need for Seeds college basketball podcast with that Big East Ben. That'll be coming, I think, later towards openers or something like that. Or it's unscheduled at the moment, but that'll be on Friday as always. And please keep an eye out for our second episode as we've decided now that we're into March and we did one midweek episode as well this week on Monday night. That's probably the day we're going to stick to is record on Monday. And I think that'll set us up better for the conference tournament and what's coming up in that sort of stuff coming up as we have conference tournaments, I think starting on Monday even this week. So get ready. And if you wanted some pools, let me know. I got plenty that are running through reputable sources that I've dealt with before across the Twitter gambling space or gambling Twitter space. I can't promise that everyone will get paid because you never know what's going on in people's lives. And we've seen some awful things happen before, but generally two trustworthy individuals I know are running pools. So if you're interested in college basketball stuff and the tournament, usually pick a certain seed to win. You get the points for it. So I would recommend not taking all one seeds, put it that way. Fun pools. And if you're interested in getting more details, let me know. Slide in some DMs at @the_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, or on YouTube. So moving to to Friday. Today's Friday. We're moving to Italy. That's what we're doing. Lazio, a quarter goal underdog at home to Milan right now. Over under is 2.25. Juice more to over. So Milan really, oh man, they have been a tough side for me to be against this year and are pretty appetizing for me to fade as a road favorite here. Lazio have not been playing well. Stole a result from let's see who was it? I think it was Torino, I want to say, a couple of midweek match days ago. You could argue they did the same from Bayern Munchen, then lost an early quick turnaround, complained a lot about it against Bologna, and then showed up, took a lead against Fiorentina after being completely dominated, and then ended up conceding again and lost 2-1. Some issues there. Lazio still didn't look very aggressive, even trailing by a goal. That does make me like under here, but 2.25 is a pretty small number for Milan matches, which have been seeing a ton of goals lately. I think a lot because their defense is not very good, but also because Milan's offense has been pretty good. And Rafael Leao, I mean, they did take a 1-1 draw with Atalanta their last match. Rafael Leao, I mean, incredible finish, though got fortunate with his, I don't think he meant to control the ball while dribbling with his knee after a defender slid in. But there's still plenty of talent on Milan's side. I think Lazio are going to have to reevaluate. They had a great underrun going, like under, I think, 12 out of 13 weeks or match days at some point earlier in the season. That has not been going as well. And I imagine Maurizio Sarri, their manager, will be very focused on keeping this low scoring. So maybe that's why the total is low. For the most part, I'm playing unders, anything 2 or above. So if it lands 2, you still win half of a bet at this current price of 2.25. But with a very juiced over right now, I think we might get 2.5 before it kicks off, and I'll be waiting for that on Friday. Moving to Saturday, Udinese hosts Salernitana. Currently, Udinese 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice over unders 2.5. Juice very heavily to under. Salernitana have been confusing. They played really well, I thought, last weekend. Were a small, slight quarter goal underdog at home. And then catching Monza off a big upset over Milan, but then really were unable to do much with their advantage for 60 minutes of the game, fell behind 2-0, and then that was pretty much curtains. Now they go on the road to Udinese, who've been not great, and really didn't do much and were shut out last weekend at Genoa. Now they're at home. They'll probably play a lot better there. I think they have a much better chance to win here. I think Salernitana look like a team that are down at this point. Defense has been pretty bad. That's what happens, I guess, with a lower budget side that have been fighting relegation ever since they've stayed in Serie A. It looks like they might be going down. They're just struggling. Buladia, their best striker, doesn't start. Seems to be tried to be an impact sub. That hasn't worked very well. So I think this side is probably not something I want to touch until we get to a full goal of insurance. But I guess if I'm into something on this card or on this matchup, it'd be under 2.5. Very juiced at the moment, but I just don't believe in Udinese offense. The nice part, though, is that they could face the Salernitana defense, which is not good at all. Moving next on Saturday, Monza hosts Roma. Currently, Monza a half a goal underdog with all the juice. Over under 2.5. Juice all the way to under. So it's going to be expensive if you want to play dog or under here for now, but we might see 2.25 and a quarter goal on the home team. Monza with a big upset of Milan, then didn't play great, kind of looked like they had been partying all week, celebrating after they beat their city neighbor that has never probably looked at them on an equal footing, to say the least. But they ended up sticking in, hanging in, saved some shots. The Gregorio's good at the goalkeeper, and then they took a lead, took another goal, and then that was enough. Now they get Roma, who really didn't look great to me. Had a literally the English commentator was saying how Roma needed to change things at halftime because they'd done nothing in the first half, coming off potentially weary legs from playing extra time and advancing in a penalty shootout in the Europa League. But then a backup after injury replacement for Torino stepped on a foot on the edge of the box with Sardar Asmun, and then the hat trick started for Paulo Dybala. So they did give up a goal before halftime. I feel like Roma, I mean, they've had an incredibly easy run, like sacking Jose Mourinho. He's probably still mad about it, like sacking him right before they faced the bottom of the league, essentially. Worked out very well, but then they got a good win against Torino. But they're another one of those sides that control the ball and don't do much with it. Monza are going to try to attack. That's going to leave them potentially open for counterattacks. Romelu Lukaku didn't start the last match, but certainly has got a lot more time off as they didn't play midweek. I think Monza's the side I want here, getting a half of a goal, but it's very juiced at the moment, and we'll see where that number moves. Roma, I don't believe in their offense. They've been scoring a ton of goals, but it's been against the bottom of the league. I think that'll stop happening eventually. But Monza are going to be pretty aggressive, so that's going to leave this match a little bit more open than I think I'd like on the smaller team. Torino then hosts Fiorentina. Currently Torino a pick 'em with all the juice right now. Over unders 2, all the way juiced to over. Looks like we're gonna get to 2.25 very soon. Fiorentina they're gonna try to possess the ball. Guess what? So are Torino. So this is going to be a battle for possession. I think that I'm not as interested in Torino. Well, both these teams really possess the ball a ton and don't do much with it. I think it's a perfect scenario for under. We only have 2 at the moment, but I'll be waiting to see this one hit 2.25, and we'll likely be playing that on Saturday evening here in the United States, or in Saturday evening in Italia, but Saturday afternoon here in the United States. On Sunday, the 3rd of March, we have the early match, 5:30 a.m. Dallas time. Verona, a quarter goal favorite at home, slightly more juice. Over unders 2.5, juice to the under. Verona have literally, they basically made everyone for sale in the January transfer window. I think they made $40 million or something like that, which they badly needed, 40 million euros. For a team that's basically been bankrupt and is trying to hang on in the league for dear life. They've gotten some good results, but mainly draws. Now they're a favorite at home, which says how far Sassuolo have fallen. Do you want to jump in and catch a falling knife on Sassuolo? Because it might just go straight through your hand, unfortunately. I'm not necessarily sure on that one, but seeing Verona favored is significant. And yes, they have a decent home crowd, but they do like to fight other ultras, as they, I think, got a big battle in Napoli when I was over in Italy in October. But Sassuolo is the side I want here. They're a quarter goal underdog. Will they get Domenico Berardi back? That's essential for them. They haven't been doing much without him. Their defense has been pretty bad, but I think in general, this has all of a sudden become a relegation battle from like teams that are always in Serie A. The Verona certainly survived in the last day, and like an extra match they just put into play that would have had them relegated last season. I think Sassuolo is going to have to, I mean, it's probably not a new thing. I wonder about their manager. If I missed him getting sacked or something like that midweek, wouldn't be a shock. But also, the team's just been horrible, and it's really hard to go on the road and change that around. But I feel like if there's ever a team like Verona, I don't know what situation they're gonna. They certainly have a bunch of players that they maybe didn't want to sell that they kept. So it seems like everything that wasn't nailed down, they tried to get rid of. Just from this perspective, I guess I'm interested in Sassuolo. I think. It takes a lot of potentially cojones or whatever that word would be in Italian. Whatever plum is probably is a good way to think about it. But I don't want to say anything that's unacceptable, so I'll just keep it moving. And I like Sassuolo and under here. It's probably for the best. Anyway, Frosinone then hosts Lecce. Currently Frosinone, a quarter goal favorite at home. More juice on Lecce on the road. Over unders 2.5. Juices split both ways. Frosinone have not been defending, but we're literally almost there, getting a draw against Juventus until like last kick of the match type concession. Brutal. Lecce, we're in a match and we're controlling Inter. Another commentator's curse, I guess you could say it, with Inter. They basically hadn't even shown up. Lecce have been playing really well, but have nothing to show for it. Bang, Lautaro Martinez counterattacking goal, 1-0, and they lose 4-0. I think Frosinone is a favorite I want to be against. They've had some miraculous comebacks, but Those are less likely in soccer, so I'm very interested in under two in excuse me in the underdog getting a quarter of a goal. Under 2.5 is interesting, but Frosinoni's defense has been so bad that I think I'd rather just be on Lecce as a side. Empoli then hosts Cagliari. Currently, Empoli a quarter goal favorite with all the juice. Over-unders 2.25. Juice pretty heavily to over. And Empoli have been playing very well. Davide Nicola, I believe, their manager, who just can't ever seem to keep a job, but basically rescues teams every season. He's been awesome, and I think this price is probably right. As it climbs to a half a goal favorite, though, I think then Empoli's like limited ceiling does come in. Cagliari have been defensive, but have been really good at scoring late goals. I don't really trust them to do that. I think my interest, though, is if Cagliari climb to a half a goal underdog where a result, a draw on the road, wins you a full bet. That does interest me. For now, I like under 2.25. I don't think there's a lot of offense coming in this matchup. Atalanta then hosts Bologna, coming off a quick turnaround from Inter midweek. I guess you could also argue that on the Inter side as well. But Atalanta, half a goal favorite at home to Bologna. They're playing great, have been playing really well, but Bologna have been awesome too, and are probably highest in the table, and they've been ever since I've been following Serie A in the last, since COVID, really. Over under here is 2.25, juice all the way to over. It's kind of amazing that since COVID a long time now, but I guess arguable when it started, when it ended, et cetera, et cetera. But don't want to make this political, so we'll keep going with Atalanta. And I don't know Italian politics on this anyway, but I know Atalanta were responsible for that first super spreader event way back when. But that's probably more COVID stuff than anyone wanted to hear. Bologna is a half a goal underdog, seems to be pretty large considering they've got a huge rest advantage. And Atalanta had to go on the road back to back with Milan draw and then Inter midweek. So, I mean, I think Bologna is in a pretty good position. So I like that half of a goal, and I like under 2.25. Atalanta is a really tough under team to play unders with because they are very aggressive offense. But to me, they're just a team now that plays defense and offense. And this should be a pretty big matchup between two really good teams. Napoli then hosts Juventus in the nightcap on Sunday. Napoli a quarter goal favorite, more juice on Juve on the road. Over unders 2.25, juice all the way to under. Napoli, I don't trust their offense whatsoever. Their defense is better than their offense, I think, now. Osimhen is back, but he's got a long way to go. Yeah, he turned Inigo Martinez in Barcelona, but that's a Barcelona thing. And also, Inigo is, I think, way past his prime, to say the least, and is clearly not a first choice type of center back. Juve have not been playing well ever since they lost to Inter, basically ruined their season, it seems, and they've been struggling. But Vlahovic has been relatively hot. I imagine Napoli will do a lot to try to keep him as quiet as possible. My biggest interest here, really, I like the side and the total, to be frank. I don't see a lot of goals here, and I think Juve will return to, every time they get away from scoring goals and killing matches, I think they are really eager to get back to it, or at least Massimo Allegri is. And last but not least, on Monday, we have Inter Milan coming off that midweek match, and they got an extra day to rest. Lucky them. And I guess if I'm wearing the shirt, I might as well talk a little bit more about them, as you can hopefully see the logo here as I lift myself up. Yay. Inter, a goal and a half favorite to Genoa. All the juice right now in Inter as well. Over under here is 2.75. Juice pretty heavily to under. Those things don't really jive, as we might have Inter at 1.75 and this total at 2.5. That seems like a very, very small window for Genoa. And I think Genoa's been playing a lot better than that, and I trust them. They've sold, I think the biggest sale in the Premier League, or buy in the Premier League, was Dragoshin, the center back from Romania, who was bought from Genoa to Tottenham Hotspur. Genoa have been awesome, and I think they have deserved it this season. I think they're going to give Inter some trouble, especially, I mean, Inter are so used to playing 2 matches in a week and are very deep, but we'll see what that means for lineups and things of that nature. And that's a gigantic spread already, so I think it's going to be even bigger by the time we keep talking, or by the time I finish talking. So my biggest interest, I think, in this, so I'm interested in Genoa getting that goal and a half, potentially a goal and 3/4. I also like under 2. Under 2.75, under also. I think my biggest interest, though, on this week, and I'll make it for my best bet in Italy. Again, 3-0 last 3 episodes of Soccer Podcast. So trying to keep that going, keep that streak going. I like Juventus under 2.25 goals. I think that's a good one on the road at Napoli. We'll move now to the German Bundesliga, then we'll do France, and then we'll get the heck out of here because I've got a lot of podcasts to do, and I was hoping to run 5 miles today. We'll see if that ends up happening. We'll go to Sports Club Freiburg, the team I follow closest in the Bundesliga. They are hosting Bayern München, and this is going to be hell. They are at home, though, which is where they play a lot better, and Bayern have not looked good. I mean, very fortunate late goal against RB Leipzig after really looking like they had nothing going for a while after they were equalized. Now, Freiburg, a goal and a quarter at home with almost all the juice. Over unders 3.25 here, just very heavily to under. Looks like that under's been getting hit, but also because it's moved up from what was, I think, an even three last night. With I guess catching a little bit of juice there. It's about the numbers are about what I made it. Think I was, let's see, a little bit bigger than three of my total, 3.03571, if anyone cares of that decimal. Same spread I was expecting with Freiburg. So I think there's a little bit of faith in the Freiburg side here. And I think the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm interested in potentially playing under. Now, I'm worried about Freiburg because their defense has been really injured and they've been playing backups or even like central defensive midfielders and young players at that. As makeshift center backs. It worked fairly well against Lens on the road in France in the first leg of the Europa League. This is different, though, against Bayern Munchen, even with their struggles. I do think Freiburg are going to sit in a low block and try to beat the you-know-what out of Bayern and try to make them really earn all these goals. That does worry me for a Freiburg side. I just don't really expect them to score, but I think that does help with potential under if one of the teams is not scoring. It's the home team that should be riding their crowd for a lot of energy. So I guess under is my biggest interest in that one. As weird as it feels to say I'm interested in under featuring Bayern Munchen. Next, we go to Union Berlin hosting Borussia Dortmund. Currently, Union a quarter goal underdog at home. All the juice on Borussia Dortmund on the road. Over under here is 2.75. Just a little bit more to under. Union have been playing really well at home. We're very fortunate to score 2 goals to turn around a deficit, but then ended up conceding an equalizer and escaped 2-2. They're no longer in that relegation mire as they were. I guess you could argue that first goal they conceded was pretty bad header of fortune, you could say. I'm interested in being against Borussia Dortmund at this point. I just don't trust their offense. I think their defense has been better, so that makes me probably more interested in under 2.75 than anything in this one. But Union, as their quarter goal underdog at home, playing a lot better, and I think they're not all the way back to the team that I literally bet as a home underdog at home every time they were playing, but they've been playing well, and I like them as an underdog, and hopefully a half of goal will show up next to their name by the time this kicks off on Saturday morning here in Dallas, Texas. Mainz then hosts Borussia Mönchengladbach. Currently, Mainz a half a goal favorite at home. Almost all the juice on Borussia Mönchengladbach on the road. Over under is 2.75. She's very heavily to under. Mainz is a big favorite. Is something I continue to want to be against. Borussia Mönchengladbach dominated Bochum last weekend. Got off to a great start and really just kept adding to it. Actually got off to a bad start, but we're fortunate that a handball was nullified a goal. But ultimately ended up playing well at home. That's what they've been doing. And they've been really, really dominant on corner kicks for years and years and years. I wonder, despite different managers, if they've been keeping a set piece coach and maybe someone might want to lure him away, or her or they or whatever they're referring them to, whatever pronouns. Mainz is are a bad offense at this point. I don't believe in that changing. Yes, they have gotten a win recently, and their third manager, they're bound to happen. Find lightning in a bottle, but I think that lightning is going to come out of the bottle. So give me Gladbach in that half of a goal, which I think is too big, and I also like under 2.75. Though it was a big scoring weekend last weekend, relatively in the Bundesliga after very low scoring match days for what felt like 2 months. VfL Bochum then hosts RB Leipzig with a new goalkeeper for the first time in forever because Manuel Riemann just couldn't close his mouth and got his 5th yellow card, which is like hilarious for a goalkeeper. Bochum, a 3/4 goal underdog at home. All the juice in Leipzig on the road. Over under is 3, juice all the way to over. Now Leipzig, we're close to getting a draw on the road. I think Benjamin Sesko, their young striker, who looks like he's rounding into form and potentially being a strike partnership with he and Luis Openda. He was saying after the match, it's amazing how well they play and they just can't get results. I think that's a thing, and I don't think that changes necessarily just because Bochum are playing a backup goalkeeper. I am going to wait to see if Bochum hit +1. I expect that will happen, though you never know because Leipzig have not been great this year and certainly have always had bad road splits as well. Bochum getting at 3/4 is my interest here. I also like under 3. Bochum can play some high scoring matches at home, but I think they're going to realize that Leipzig have so much more talent. They're going to play defensively and try to protect that backup keeper. SC Heidenheim then hosts Eintracht Frankfurt. Currently Heidenheim, I pick them at home. All the juice on Frankfurt on the road. Over under here is 2.5. Just a little bit more to over. Frankfurt have not been good really ever since returning from winter break. They did a ton of business. They're bringing new players, then crashed out of the Conference League, which is embarrassing, especially considering they had a 2-0 lead on the road in the first leg, and then ended up conceding two, drawing, and then falling 2-0 behind at home to Union Saint-Gilloise, the first place in Belgium. I think this is a big problem spot for Eintracht Frankfurt. I think they're overpriced here. I would like to get a quarter of a goal in Heidenheim. I'm not sure I'll get it, but I also think I'll still play Heidenheim at Pick'em at home. And I guess I lean to under 2.5. I think the hard part is trusting a Frankfurt defense, which speaks more to the home team. But Frankfurt's offense just seems like it's been fairly fortunate, and their defense has been bad. I think I'm probably most interested in the pick'em right now at Heidenheim's side at home because but we got to see what's up with Jan-Nicolas Besta, their best creator. Pun intended. He's unfortunately, he was, I think, left with a hamstring injury after he scored a goal last weekend to equalize, and we'll see what happens with him and his availability because he's essential. But I still think I want to be against Eintracht Frankfurt. If he doesn't play, maybe that gets that quarter of a goal on the home team. As for Darmstadt, then hosts Augsburg, coming off an incredible up and down roller coaster ride where they thought they won the match after equalizing and ultimately had a goal ruled out on a handball that would have been the last kick of the match. Amazing. But good for the under. Thank you. Finally got one that went in the right direction. Got a break. Darmstadt a pick 'em right now to Augsburg. Augsburg with all the juice. Over under is 2 3/4, juiced all the way to under. Darmstadt have been a good underside, even playing against the best in the Bundesliga. They've been keeping matches low scoring. They haven't been scoring much. They have been finding some goals lately, and that's been certainly threatening unders. But I think that's my biggest interest here. I don't really want to back the home dog, even though Augsburg certainly have shown some weaknesses over their time in the Bundesliga, to say the least. Rarely are a road favorite, let's put it that way. But to the Bundesliga bottom, I think it makes a little more sense. VfL Wolfsburg then hosts Stuttgart. Currently, Wolfsburg a quarter goal underdog at home. More juice on Stuttgart on the road. Over under here is 2 3/4, just a little bit more to under. Wolfsburg, it's hard to trust them to score goals, but they are a really talented team that just haven't been getting results. And I think it's something you could say for RB Leipzig as well. I think just haven't worked out for them. I don't really know what to say or what the answer is. Stuttgart, though, I feel like they're kind of on a downward spiral. It's hard for them to play as well as they were early in the season. And the Deniz Undav injury is a big deal. And Serhou Guirassy, who's one of the hottest strikers and probably the most efficient in all of Europe based on goals per minute played stats. He's been in and out of injury and then went to the AFCON. And I feel like they're a little bit off the pace right now. Stuttgart is offensively. So I'm interested in Wolfsburg getting that quarter of a goal at home and I guess under as well, even though I'd love to see a 3 there in that top spiel on Saturday in Germany. On Sunday, we have FC Köln hosting Bayer Leverkusen. Currently, Köln a 1 1/4 goal underdog at home. All the juice on Bayer Leverkusen on the road. Over under here is 2 3/4. Juice all the way to over. My biggest interest here is under. Leverkusen, incredible push last weekend, an incredible win to set the stage for the weekend. And I think really impacted Bayern Munchen, who are like, we just can't catch them. Especially when Mainz's goalkeeper is going to drop the ball into his own net, like on a 2% goal expected probability. So, geez, but I don't expect that to happen again. Marvin Sveba, I don't want to jinx him, but he's been like getting national team consideration because he's been so good and really keeping Cologne even in the race for the non-automatic relegation playoff position, which I think they'll probably survive against a second-tier, third-place finisher in the Zweite Liga. But I think Cologne, I mean, I'm interested in the home dog here, I got to say. I think I'm most interested in that under 2 3/4, so I'd love for it to hit 3. And last but not least, in the German Bundesliga, we have TSG Hoffenheim hosting Werder Bremen. Currently, Hoffenheim a half a goal favorite at home. More juice on Werder Bremen on the road. Over under is 3, just a little bit more to over, or more to over. Hoffenheim have not been good. pretty much easy to say. They're not a good home team. They don't have any crowd support. Small village, it seems, and they barely pack out the stadium. They don't pack out the stadium. I'll put it that way. They barely fill it. They don't fill it. So I don't know what to say. There's not a lot of bodies in there. So I think it's a good spot for Werder Bremen. They've not been playing great. I think they're a little bit of a downturn, disappointed with some results of late. I think they'll be very hungry for this one. So give me Werder Bremen getting that half of a goal. And I like under 3 as well, because I just don't really believe in Hoffenheim's offense to really do much scoring, to be frank. For my best bet in the German Bundesliga, I'm going to go with that FC Köln under 2 3/4. I'm expecting to probably hit 3 before we kick off, and I'll be certainly looking for that in any spots that you have the opportunity to pay up for a little bit, to take a push on 3. It's not a key number like the NFL, but it might be more key in soccer totals. So make sure you get a 3 if it is available, or at least wait as long as you can to make sure that you don't miss it before kickoff, and then potentially buy up to the 3 if you have that option at your sportsbook. If you're at BetOnline or SportsBetting.ag, sister sites of each other, BetOnline is giving you 50% match bonus for your first time deposit, and 100% at SportsBetting.ag, and they're the same site. Literally, they open lines at the same time. I would grab that 100% match bonus, free money from casino up to $500. Go grab that. It's in the podcast description on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or on YouTube. Moving to League On, that's the last portion of this podcast, and then we'll get ultimate best bets, and then we'll get the heck out of here and start focusing on the other pods I have to do today. I think. But we're gonna move to let's go to Monaco hosting PSG, and that is a Friday matchup in Ligue 1 in France. And so we'll start Monaco, a half a goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over under is 3 1/4, juiced all the way to under. So we might see this fall back to a quarter. It was initially there on Monaco as a side. And then the total, I think it's been 3 1/4 the whole time. Pretty expensive. Usually we get PSG money and over. So we'll see, especially with odds on PSG right now. They came off a pretty bad performance on the road, or I think it was at home actually, at the Parc des Princes. They lost to Rennes. Well, actually, did they lose to Rennes? I think they got a late equalizer. So that helped, of course. Let's see and make sure I don't quote this wrong. Or was it ruled out for offside? Okay, so they did get a late equalizer. So yeah, penalty kick for Gonzalo Ramos, which was a dive to me, it seemed. But I mean, Curie went and took the lead, and then yeah, Gonzalo Ramos with a penalty, 90 plus 7 minutes, brutal. I guess that might potentially take some heat off of PSG, though they're way ahead in Liga, so that's not a big deal. Champions League is what's going to make this team. Not sure about the status of Kylian Mbappe, but if he's not in that lineup, then that PSG team is very different, and we'll see what PSG look like next year when he is off to Real Madrid. But Monaco, they're going to be aggressive and try to play to score goals. It's never a great idea to do that against PSG because I think they're best on the counterattack, but this is a different PSG side, which under Luis Enrique, they're more interested in possessing the ball. So I think there's going to be a little bit of a battle for who's going to have it. And I think that's going to set up Monaco very well. Because if PSG don't have possession, they have so many attacking players on the pitch that they're potentially in jeopardy. I think Monaco is the side I want here. So give me that half of a goal. Don't think I want to do much with the total, as Monaco really unders are like the opposite of the game they want to play. Moving to Saturday, Stade de Reims hosting Lille Olympique Sports Club. Currently Reims a pick'em at home. More juice on Lille on the road. Over here is 2.5, juiced a little bit more to under. Now Reims with an incredible down to 10 men, concede an equalizer, and then end up scoring in the last minutes after a save on a penalty kick and retaking because the goalkeeper was off his line. Yes, one of the brutal losses of my weekend, but regardless, big win for Reims because they've been really struggling. Now they're in a position where they get Lille, who completely no-showed the second half on the road at Toulouse last weekend, and a very tired Toulouse side as well. I don't know really what the heck happened there, but I guess Toulouse did bring on their best players. They were rotating a lot in the first half. But Reims, they're going to do the best they can, of course, as everyone will. But I think Lille are the better side at pick'em. I don't think there's much I want to do here. And 2.5, I just feel like Lille is an over team, so it doesn't fit my underways. Sorry, Joe Dollar. I know that you wrote in the comments on YouTube, or excuse me, on Apple Podcasts to try to get me play more favorites and over in soccer. It's just a really tough game to play, unfortunately for me. I feel like with no overtime, with games that can end in a goalless draw, it's not really a favorites and over sport to me. Move next to the nightcap on Saturday. We have Clermont Foot hosting Olympique de Marseille. Currently, Clermont half a goal underdog at home. More juice on Marseille on the road. Over under here is 2.5. Juice more to over. And I'm forever going to be in the under camp with Clermont Foot, as I just don't trust in the score. They literally get penalties. It's the only way they do it. They got a penalty saved last weekend, first half, and then finished a goalless draw. I think Marseille are going to go in and probably control this game, but I think we've seen they're already on the third manager this season with Gennaro Gattuso out. Things have not been great for Marseille, and I don't think that's going to change too much, especially against a team that's going to try to defend them. Moving to Sunday, Toulouse hosting Nice. Currently, Toulouse a quarter goal underdog at home with more of the juice over under here is 2.25. Choose very heavily to under. Toulouse are, I mean, I don't know how they're doing it energy wise, though they did rotate for the first half last week. They basically use their best players because they're fighting relegation in Ligue 1. They use their best players in Europa League Leg 1 in the French Ligue 1. Then they used their Europa League Leg 2, their best players, then finally rotated last weekend. And I guess the throw before that all, they had everybody they used for a Liga match as well. They've been playing really well in Liga. I thought they deserved to advance against Benfica, but two penalties, both late, including one at the end of the game in the first leg at Benfica in Lisboa or Lisbon, Portugal. That was a brutal run stretch for them, and now they get to focus on the league, and I think that they will find a way out because Europa League was really taxing a very thin squad, one that should have been bolstered and was not this season. They've taken a lot of risk, but they're at home to Nice, who have not been scoring any goals, have really risen to the top of the league on table because they weren't conceding any goals. That's changed, and they don't score enough to do anything. So very interested in Toulouse getting that quarter goal, and I also like under 2.25. It's very juiced at the moment though, which is concerning. Stade Brestois then hosts Le Havre. Currently Brest a 1-goal favorite at home. Le Havre getting all the juice right now. Over unders 2.25, juice all the way to over. Le Havre haven't been a great run lately. Results have not been there for the Ligue 2 champions from last season. Defense was great. I don't think necessarily has changed too much, but you know, they're really bad at conceding goals end of matches, which I think is probably speaks to a lack of depth and potentially tired legs, which is something that I don't know that a newly promoted side, especially in a very poor league like France, was dropped to the sixth position globally, or at least in Europe. I think I'm still interested in getting a full goal of insurance from a side like Brest, who have been playing really well this season, but to me don't really seem like a great goal scoring offense. So back to the well again. I like Le Havre getting that goal, and I like under 2.25, which looks like it'll hit 2.5 before kickoff. Montpellier then hosts Strasbourg. Currently Montpellier half a goal favorite. All the juice on Strasbourg on the road. Over under at 2.5, juiced a little bit more to under. I mean, this is incredible, but Strasbourg were playing so well and then started selling pieces like their goalkeeper, trying to get some money in, and they're really, I think, just a junior team of Chelsea essentially, which is we know how bad that's going for Chelsea. It's wild to see them a half a goal underdog, though, to Montpellier, who've not been playing well for a while. So my interest there is Strasbourg in that half of a goal and also under 2.5 as well. Still in that same 8 a.m. Central Time in the United States window on Sunday morning. Nantes hosts Football Club de Metz. Currently Nantes 3/4 goal favorite. All the juice on Metz on the road. Over unders 2.25. Juiced all the way to under. Nantes have been I guess scoring more this year than last year or the year before that, but that's because they were scoring no goals previously. So I don't think much has changed there. Football Club de Metz are not able to score much. Did take a lead on Lyon, and then unfortunately, I guess conceded and gave up that lead and fell behind and lost. It's going to be a really tough setup for Metz to stay in the league. They're really fighting relegation, and I don't think that's going to change necessarily. But I do like under 2.25, as I think Metz, their game plan is to try to score first and then kill the game. Juventus does it, but that's because or Juventus do it because they're like the best club in Italy, or have been. Metz, like the worst club in France, a yo-yo club that goes up and goes down over and over again. I think that's what they have to do, and I kind of like that strategy better with the better team, of course, but I think it's worked fairly well, and I think we see that here in this matchup as well. Stade Rennes then hosts Lorient in the next window on Sunday. Rennes, a 1.25 favorite, almost all the juice on Lorient on the road. Over unders 2.75, juice very heavily to under. We might see 2.5. Rennes potentially I imagine they enter pretty angry after that late concession, and I'm sure there's plenty of articles written about PSG stealing a point late with a dive, but could have argued there was a foul on the play beforehand before Gonzalo Ramos's dive. So who knows? But anyway, Lorient, they've been playing really well lately. It's a pretty big underdog, getting more than a goal on the road at Rennes, though Rennes have been playing very well and had won like 7 in a row matches or something like that in Liga until that late equalizer. But long unbeaten streak in Liga. That won't certainly get it done here, but they've been playing great and had a really tough draw with Milan and did win one of the legs in the Europa League, even though they got eliminated. So a lot of questions here potentially for Lorient. I mean, they've been playing well, but their defense does seem to be problematic from time to time. So we'll see how that goes. I think from an under perspective, I'm interested there, but Lorient's defense has been questionable and their offense has been actually a lot better lately. So I think my biggest interest there is in Lorient getting that goal in a quarter. It probably plays to under because they're definitely correlated on the road team, but I think that's probably my biggest interest because I think they probably can score, and if Lorient score, then that total is in big time jeopardy. Last but not least, Lyon hosts Lens, currently a pick 'em. Lyon with more of the juice, over unders 2.5, juice to under. Now Lens are still trying to get their legs back after their elimination in extra time in the Europa League. Lyon have been fighting their way up the table. They've been playing very well. They played Friday last week, so that's even more rest for them. I like their side, and I think as a pick 'em, I think they're underpriced based on where they sit in the table, and I don't think that's the right thing. So I'm interested in that Lyon pick 'em, and I'll make that my best bet from France. So check in the I guess the podcast reviews. If you leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, that'd be huge for the search rankings. The last comment came from my guy Joe Dollar, asking Big East Ben to convince Griffin to start betting favorites, overs, and both teams to score in football. It was a nice little cross pollination because I got Big East Ben, my college basketball, the Need for Seeds podcast, hosted by the Bet in the Pitch podcast network, to comment as I've instructed, but it is definitely a soccer comment, so I guess I should probably mention it here. If you don't want to leave a 5-star review, then don't leave one, but leave a 5-star review. It's huge for the search rankings and huge for this podcast. And the more that we get to those, maybe I'll do a daily show or something like that if that comes up. Love you all. Thank you, of course, for all the support. And I'll keep doing this even if you don't, but I would love it. And subscribers on YouTube are also huge. I think I need like 950 more to start having ads. So you guys are safe if you're a YouTube watcher to just not have to worry about those for a long, long time. We should have a baseball podcast coming out in the spring, so get ready for that on the Betting the Pitch podcast network. And it actually works. The pitch time, like sound and word, actually fits as it does in soccer, of course, for the real football heads. But it also helps for baseball because of the seams and you're throwing a baseball pitch. Get that? Anyway, if you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out. I've already advertised it twice, so I won't bore you again, but it's worth it to get all my plays. And we're going to start playing some futures on college basketball tournament futures, which I'm very much looking forward to. I feel like I have a better insight into the smaller conferences than I ever have. I think this is the third year in a row I've lined every game of the college basketball season, but I feel like there's some good spots and potentials in the lower conferences. And that to me, like I had a really good run a few years ago picking Auburn to win, I think is a 5 seed or something like that in the SEC tournament back when I was living in Nashville, and I went to a bunch of the games, and that was awesome. But it's really much harder to do that in the bigger conferences, and I feel like there's some value in the lower ones. So stay tuned for that. We'll do the pregame podcast with AJ Hoffman later today. Same with the Need for Seeds college basketball with Big East Ben. And I probably could stop and just get into the ultimate best bet. So let's do it. This is the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and Twitter, plus YouTube. This is the Betting the Pitch podcast. And this is the top 5 of 6 European soccer leagues, the ultimate best bet, where I pick one of my favorite bets from all sports. And if you want more information or more bets, more leans, everything overnight, go to patreon.com. This is real_G Warner. So for this Friday episode on March 1st, as we are into college basketball, heavy season, we're still doing soccer stuff, so stick around. But in the English Premier League, I like Nottingham Forest under 3.25 goals. In Spain's La Liga, I like Athletic Club Bilbao getting a quarter of a goal from Barcelona. In Ligue 1 in France, I like Lyon, I pick them. In the German Bundesliga, I like Cologne under 2 3/4 goals. And in Serie A in Italy, I like Juventus under 2.25 goals. But for my ultimate best bet on this episode, I'm going to go with that Athletic Club Bilbao getting a quarter of a goal at home from Barcelona. Yes, they're coming off Copa del Rey, but I like that side and I like to bet against Barcelona. So take Athletic Club getting a quarter of a goal at home. And that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. Thank you for tuning in, and I will talk to you all very soon as I got to get ready for a million other podcasts.